This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Good evening. Welcome to the 22nd Annual Inspiration Awards. My name is Lauren Schenkel, and I'm the president, and it's an honor to serve as this year's president of the Emory Public Interest Committee, or as we lovingly refer to it, EPIC. EPIC is a student-run organization that promotes serving those in need, connects students to public service opportunities, and supports students seeking to build public interest careers. While we commend students who dedicate their legal careers to public service, we also believe that public service should be a part of every legal career. Thus, we strive to connect all students at the law school to opportunities to serve their community and those in need through pro bono legal work and volunteering, both in the school and beyond. The Inspiration Awards ceremony is our most important event each year. Tonight, we celebrate the incredible achievements of 3 public servants who have dedicated their lives as attorneys to helping others. They inspire us to work harder for the causes we believe in and remind us that serving others is a responsibility that we all must carry as members of the legal community. The diverse paths that they have taken also remind us that while public service is a responsibility that we all share, there are many ways to serve others and have an influential, positive impact. While the Inspiration Awards is primarily to honor these 3 award recipients, we're also here for another purpose. In order for law school students to jumpstart their careers in public service, it is important that we provide them with the building blocks to serve. Every dollar that we raise tonight goes directly to funding EPIC grants for students this summer. These grants make it possible for students to take unpaid public interest jobs when they otherwise might not be able to do so. It is an opportunity that has helped students, including myself, to explore their passions and kickstart their public interest careers. There are many past grant recipients in attendance this evening, some currently still students and some now practicing attorneys. Additionally, there are many future grant recipients here, hopeful and excited for the chance to put their dedication to public service into practice this summer. At the reception, I encourage all of you to speak to these students and ask them about their projects, their passions, their goals. Your donations will help shape the future careers of law students in this room. Thank you for joining us tonight to honor these 3 attorneys whose work has touched the lives of so many. EPIC is honored to host tonight, but we recognize that none of this would be possible without your extraordinary support and donations. Thank you so much. Unintended pause, sorry for that. Thank you so much for supporting EPIC and our mission to support students in their pursuit of serving others. With that, I'd like to introduce Dean Hughes to offer a few words of welcome.
Good evening. Welcome to our 22nd EPIC Awards ceremony. I'm Jim Hughes, the interim dean here at the law school. And this evening continues an extraordinary day in the life of Emory Law. Earlier today, we hosted Sonia Sotomayor, Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. She spoke to a full house in Glenn Memorial Auditorium just down the street. And we were honored and delighted to host Justice Sotomayor as we began our 2nd century as a law school. Tonight, we honor several extraordinary public servants. We also take this opportunity to highlight the importance of public service, to celebrate recent public interest achievements at Emory Law, and to rededicate ourselves to the high ideals of public service. Under the leadership of Dean Sheffy, the Center for Public Service advises students regarding public interest and government careers, assists those seeking postgraduate judicial clerkships, and presents a wide variety of programming opportunities to engage students with pro bono volunteer projects and to expose them to a vast array of public interest careers. One of the center's significant programs is the annual Public Interest Dinner Series, where a select group of first-year students, along with 2Ls and 3Ls, have dinner meetings with local public interest lawyers. This year's speakers include 5 Emory Law alumni: Nate Jester, class of 2014, with Atlanta Legal Aid; Ashton Bailey, class of 2011, with the EPA; Ben Farley, also class of 2011, with the Office of Global Criminal Justice, U.S. Department of State; Donna Stribling, class of 1999, DeKalb Solicitor General; and Gwen Keyes Fleming, now in private practice, but formerly DeKalb District Attorney, Principal Legal Advisor for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and former Chief of Staff for the U.S. EPA. Later this month, we are coordinating a public sector career fair where more than 50 local firms and nonprofit government agencies will interview law students all across Georgia for summer internships. I'm also pleased to report that Emory's Loan Repayment Assistance Program, which provides financial assistance to new graduates in public service careers, assisted 28 graduates last year. In November, students volunteering with Emory Law's International Refugee Assistance Project, or IRAP, were recognized by the State Bar of Georgia with the Law School Excellence in Access to Justice Award. Through IRAP, Emory Law students worked with lawyers from King and Spalding to represent refugees around the world who otherwise would not have legal representation, to navigate an increasingly complex system that ends up resettling a very small percentage of applicants. We recently learned that 2 IRAP clients will now be able to live in the United States as lawful permanent residents. Congratulations to the students and to the lawyers for a job well done. Earlier this month, Emory Law students, with support from the Emory Office of LGBT Life, formally launched the Emory LGBTQ Legal Services to provide much-needed legal assistance to LGBTQ individuals in the metro Atlanta area. ELLS will connect pro bono attorneys and other volunteer law students with low-income LGBTQ clients who have legal needs not currently being addressed. Of course, the crown jewel of Emory's public interest law program is the Emory Public Interest Committee, the student group that created this very special evening. I'd like to thank the Epic Inspiration Awards co-chairs, Allie Cochran, Raymond Tran, Joe Linoff, and Eliza Taylor for their attention to detail in creating this event, and also acknowledge Lauren Schenkel for her excellent work as Epic president. I also thank Dean Rita Sheffy, Center for Public Service Program Director Ebony Mobley, and other members of the Emory Law staff for their tireless work with Epic leaders to make tonight such a success. I add my personal congratulations to each of tonight's recipients, about whom you will learn more shortly. I also want to acknowledge Mark and Rebekah Wasserman for their generous gift to support the award presented to a third-year student for outstanding commitment to public service. I'd like to give a hand to Mark and Rebekah. And now I'd like to welcome Emory Law alumnus Silas Allard, the Associate Director for the Center for the Study of Law and Religion, to present the Mark and Rebekah Wasserman Public Service Award. Silas?
Early in the Hindu epic, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to the despairing warrior prince Arjuna, "Look to your own duty, your Dharma. Do not tremble before it. Nothing is better for a warrior than a battle of sacred duty." To know and follow one's Dharma is a central theme of Bhagavad Gita. But this idea of Dharma is complex and multi-layered. It encompasses role-specific duties. Lawyers, for instance, have a Dharma. In her remarks to the Emory community earlier today, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor gave us a pretty good definition of lawyers' Dharma when she said that lawyers help people. Lawyers help people with their relationships. Law, to paraphrase the justice, is a public service profession. But Dharma is more than role-specific obligation. It is a sacred duty. It is a vocation, a calling. It is the responsibility for our shared social life. Sai, Santosh, Kumar, Kolluru has the Dharma of a public interest lawyer. The Dharma of a public interest lawyer means looking at the injustices and inequities in our society and knowing that one cannot, in good conscience, avert one's gaze. Sai has interned and externed widely in the public interest law with the Federal Aviation Administration, the Executive Office of Immigration Review, the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, Animal Law Source. At Emory, he has served as the president of the Immigration Law Society. He has served as policy coordinator of the International Refugee Assistance Project, as a student attorney with the International Humanitarian Law Clinic. He works as a law clerk with Cook Immigration Partners and has worked on the lawsuit to win in-state tuition for DACA recipients. But this extensive CV doesn't do justice to Sai's Dharma as a public interest lawyer. What does justice to his Dharma as a public interest lawyer is the many times he has come to sit in my office or Dean Sheffy's office to fight an injustice that he can't let go by, because nothing is better for a warrior than a battle of sacred duty. It is my honor and my privilege to present Sai, Santosh, Kumar, Kolluru with the Mark and Rebekah Wasserman Public Service Award this evening. Sai.
Good evening. I am honored and humbled to be here this evening to introduce to you tonight's honoree for Unsung devotion to those most in need, Ms. Monica Modi Khant. Many of you may know Monica as the executive director of GAIN, the Georgia Asylum and Immigration Network. But she is the mother of 3 beautiful children, the wife of a devoted husband, a teacher, a mentor, and to someone who has had the privilege of working alongside her for the last 10 years, she is a dear, dear friend. She is someone who cares deeply, gives freely, and has spent the last 20 years of her life advocating for the rights of vulnerable immigrants, and in particular, those who have experienced some form of abuse, either in the United States or abroad. Her commitment to the cause stems from a deep and honest understanding of her family's own immigrant experience, of coming to the United States with nothing more than their hopes and dreams in their pockets. She is also inspired by all the lives that she has impacted over the course of her career. From the political asylum seekers she represented as a young detention attorney in New Jersey, to the countless survivors of trafficking and domestic abuse she has fought so hard for during her tenure at GAIN. It is their stories of pain and suffering that drive her, but it is their courage and resilience that sustain her. A few years ago, Monica represented a young woman from Honduras named Claudia. Claudia met her abuser when she was just 16. She dropped out of school, followed her abuser's promises to the United States, and by the age of 18, she was pregnant with his child. For 10 years, Claudia suffered unimaginable physical and emotional abuse. In fact, to this day, she wears a scar on her forehead that serves as a reminder of just one of the times when her abuser tried to show off his strength. But despite all that she endured,
Claudia remained too afraid to ask for help, because doing so could end up getting her deported, or worse, separating her from the one thing she cared about most in this world, her son. From the moment she took on the case, Monica demonstrated empathy and compassion and a genuine willingness to speak up when Claudia could not speak for herself. She showed courage and heart. And to this day, it serves as an example of who we are, how we treat our clients, and what we stand for at Gain. Those of us who know Monica know that on any given day, she is running from board meetings to staff meetings to dance recitals to any other number of commitments that she has made. But she does it with poise, with grace, and with a sincere desire to show up and be present for those who need her. So it gives me great pleasure to present the 2018 Epic Inspiration Award for Unsung Devotion to Those in Need to my colleague and my friend, Monica Modi Khant.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alpa, for your most touching words. You say that I have taught you, but I think I have learned more from you than you say that you've learned from me. And my deep admiration and respect for your dedication and passion for our clients and work energizes me every single day. Thank you. It is truly an honor for me to stand here before you today. Not only is it an honor, but it's a privilege. Because had community, culture, traditional family values, and South Asian biases, had they had won, I would not be here before you as a lawyer today. In 1984, when I was 11 years old, I discovered a family secret. I learned that my father's younger sister, my aunt, was a victim of domestic violence. And it was at an age that I learned the hard lesson that there was nothing I could do about it. Upon learning the secret, my childhood memories were consumed with running with my father to her home to save her and my two cousins from immediate danger and abuse. At least once a month, we would speed to my aunt's house and find my cousins upstairs hiding and my aunt defending herself against her husband. The most noticeable part of the story was that even though the police came each and every time, my aunt never left. Back then, at a young age, I felt more should have been done to help her. And I even asked my dad, why didn't we do more? His response to this day affects me. He said that even if she had left, no one in our community would accept her and that her life would be over without her husband. I was in shock, and the unfairness, injustice, and helplessness of my aunt's situation never left me. So I made the young decision to go to law school at the age of 11, so that women like my aunt would not have to suffer in silence anymore. Well, that kind of didn't bode well for me. I was the eldest daughter in a big family who had all these opinions and big social justice ideas. As young, hardworking Indian immigrant parents, my parents just wanted us to have an easier life. They taught us incredible lessons and wonderful values that I've since passed on to my kids, but being vocal and advocating for others was very new to them. As immigrants, they just really wanted a quiet life. And they had hoped that I would forget about my decision to go to law school, but I didn't. And when I started applying, it was my parents' worst nightmare. They increased their pressure to change my mind. They even tried to offer me safer and more acceptable options which were more culturally appropriate for them. Why don't you be an accountant? Why don't you be a pharmacist? Why do you need to go to more school? And when I didn't listen, they finally pulled out the big guns and said, no one's gonna marry you if you go to law school. That is what they said. And after months of fighting, my mom's youngest brother finally said to them, if you don't support her dream, I will. So my parents relented, and I ran to law school without looking back, and I hoped that they wouldn't change their mind. It was in law school through clinics, externships, and like-minded friends that I finally found myself. My purpose of advocating for the underserved population only grew stronger. There were times that I questioned whether I was making the right decision. It was hard to wipe away the family pressures still, and the fact that nonprofit attorneys made very little money hit home when in my first job as an attorney, I made $27,000. My mom liked to remind me that I could have made more money working in fast food, but it didn't matter to me because it never was more clearer that the work that we were doing was making a positive impact. As a nonprofit attorney, obviously our salaries aren't the driving force, but it's seeing the curves of justice shift and being part of a movement with a group of people who feel the same way that we do and uplift and fight beside one another. There are days that are long, you lose hope and you wonder, are we even making a difference? We are. Let me tell you that we are. My shift in doing this work was never more apparent to me than in the fall of last year when my daughter rose up and spoke against an injustice that happened to her. My daughter, Corinna, who's here today and is probably rolling her eyes at me because what 13-year-old daughter wants to be in her mom's speech, came home one day from school and told me that a popular 7th grade boy had called her the C word several times and laughed about it. When this happened, oh boy, not only did the mom in me come out, but the attorney in me came out too. I became a mom-turney. And now I recognize that the C word is not equal to domestic violence that my aunt faced, but the shame, confusion, degradation, and violation is very similar. As a mom-turney, I said to my daughter, as I would a client, what do you want to do? And her answer to me was priceless. She said she was going to file a report because he should know that that word is wrong and he should never say it to anyone else. So she did. Despite the pressures, despite people trying to tell her to drop it, despite the boy trying to text her and tell her to drop it, she stood still. And she made sure that the report went ahead. So the school finally took care of this situation, and my daughter now has a baseline for what behavior she will and won't accept in life. What this situation taught me is that young girls now feel the support within the system to stand up for themselves early on, and while my aunt had to suffer in silence, others don't. In the same family where my aunt lived a life of abuse and only escaped it when her husband passed away, my daughter, 3 decades later, was able to stand up for herself, and it wasn't even a question mark. This is the shift we want to see. This is why we do the work. We're going to have to continue this work because our work is not yet over. The new chapter in our world is advocating for immigrant rights. We need all the voices, all the hands on deck, and all the legal strength we can muster. We need you. Let me tell you that this work can't be done alone. And we need all of you in the audience to sign up and be nonprofit attorneys. We need you to be a change maker in whatever capacity you can be. And we need you to use your skills for a greater good and bigger purpose. I'm standing before you today to receive the Unsung Hero Award, but there are many of you in the audience that are my unsung heroes, and I'm looking at you right now. But the folks that I really want to thank from the bottom of my heart are my family. My husband, who did marry me, I did get married. Thank you for being my rock and for always making sure that I stay steady and don't lose sight of what the end goal is. To my children, thank you. Nick, Rahel, and Corinna, thank you for accepting me, understanding that if I'm not with you, I'm somewhere else, and that the time that I've missed with you is for a bigger purpose. Thank you so much for this honor tonight, and there are so many of you in the audience that I want to thank, but I think my time is up, and I will make sure to thank you all in the reception area later. Thank you.
Good evening. Congratulations, Justice Hines, and to Monica Khant, the Emory Public Interest Committee. Congratulations, you picked very well in those categories. And it is my pleasure to tell you about Margaret Scott, who tonight receives the Outstanding Leadership in the Public Interest Award. As a preface, Margaret, I know you don't like recognition or you don't seek it, and I know that you don't work for credit for yourself, and you're going to squirm a little while I talk about you, but I would do this program, and frankly you an injustice if I let your natural modesty direct all of my comments. I've been to a number of epic ceremonies, and to me the best awards are those that are given to someone who has a notable profession, but as importantly, someone who is an outstanding model for the Emory law students and the young lawyers in this community. And on both counts, Margaret Scott deserves to be considered outstanding and a leader. Margaret learned her commitment from the community, to the community from her family, and for the travel that included years in the Kingdom of Lesotho and Aix-en-Provence and Cameroon. After graduation from law school, Margaret went to work for Alston & Bird, where she still works. Now, working at a large firm had not necessarily been her plan, but she made the mistake of doing very well in law school. And also in the summer where she worked at Alston, of being obviously extremely competent and also quite charming. So they made an offer to her, which she accepted because working at Alston would challenge her, would help her cover expenses, would promote real professional growth, would give her the chance to provide the highest level of legal service to her clients, and importantly, she decided it would also serve as a platform, allowing her to leverage her knowledge, her relationships, and her position for those in the community that could not afford those services. Margaret was immediately and simultaneously successful on both paths. She is smart, she's attentive, she has great social skills, and she immediately learned the estate law, the fiduciary and tax practice at her firm very quickly. But before she got too settled there, she immediately joined the pro bono committee of Alston & Bird. 2 months after she joined the firm, she also helped AVLF implement our Wills for Emergency Services personnel program. She taught lawyers how to write wills. She did the training 12 times. She, in between, would upgrade regularly the manual. She would answer those who had questions, and she also took on a number of cases herself. Margaret then joined the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation Board of Directors and immediately became one of the best board members with whom I've ever worked. We routinely ignored the foundation's bylaws. Every 2 years, I would call and beg her to take another term, and she finally served 6 terms, providing stability and maturity and leadership as together we sought to promote equal access to justice. Margaret has earned success at every level it can be measured. At her law firm, where she is enormously popular and extremely well regarded by colleagues at every level. Please look at the program listing later to see all of the boards she has joined and helped lead, and the firm programs she's founded, and the name that she's been named to the Rising Stars 3 times, and she is one of the best lawyers in America in 2018 for the trusts and states section, and she's going to take on the chairs of fiduciary and nonprofit section memberships at the bar, unless she's already led them, and I believe one of them she has. Plus, she married Derek and had a son. 2 sons, 3 sons. And this is where the real magic comes in for me. She has created balance in her life. She is a dynamic and astute and sought-after professional, and she does more than 100 hours of pro bono service every year, and she mentors those who also want to help lift the community, and she meets the bus after school, and she never misses a piano practice or a soccer game or a family event. And I'm really glad that this award comes to Margaret at a time when there's an extraordinary increase in the consciousness about the dignity of women professionals who want to have a successful professional life and a successful personal life. Our profession still has work to do to appreciate that fully accomplished is a different path for a woman than it is for a man, regardless. What Margaret has done is to become one of the best lawyers in Atlanta, and at the same time, one of our city's best citizens. And I'm very proud tonight to award Margaret Scott the Outstanding Leadership in the Public Interest Award from the Emory Public Interest Committee.
Well, wow. That was a very humbling introduction by somebody for whom I have a whole lot of respect. For those of you who know Marty, you know that there's nobody in our community who does more or is more committed to helping serve those in need. So it was an honor to be introduced by you. Thank you. I would like to thank first the student members of EPIC. This is really your event, and you do just a fantastic job every year of pulling it off, and this year is no exception. I want to thank my former colleagues on the EPIC committee who are honoring me with this award. It is humbling beyond measure. And I want to thank my many friends, colleagues, and loved ones who are in this room, and some who are not in this room, who have helped me, taught me, prodded me, and inspired me so that I could arrive at this moment and be honored with this award. I would particularly like to single out some folks in the front row, my husband Derek and my 3 boys, Jake, Drew, and Will. I love you, and I want to leave the world better than I found it for you. I also would like to thank the youth, sport, and activity gods tonight, because I have to tell you, in the Scott household, it's rare for us all to be together and not in a gym or on a field on a Tuesday night. So thank you to those folks as well. So I grew up in Brunswick, Maine, which is a town of 20,000. It's a relatively homogeneous town. And as Marty alluded, I had the opportunity to travel extensively overseas while I was growing up. My father was a college professor and got Fulbright scholarships to teach in some exotic locales. He mentioned that I attended high school in a country called Lesotho in South Africa. I spent a year in England, and I traveled all over Europe and Africa when I was growing up. And I think those experiences gave me what I think is my very best attribute, which is perspective. In large part, I think that's the attribute that's propelled me to have the chance to be up here today. Traveling to different countries is the best education I ever had, because it gave me some context on how people, not exactly like me, approach the world and problems in the world. And it gave me, and still gives me, an unfailing appreciation for everything I have. While I was at Emory Law, I was very involved with EPIC, and I always thought I'd work in the public sector. That's sort of how I was constructed. But because I was facing law school loans, when I had the opportunity to go to work at Alston and Byrd, I jumped at it. I think I thought I'd stay there kind of until my loans were paid off, and then I would go elsewhere. That hasn't happened, and what I've realized in the process is that if you have a passion for helping people in need, you can exercise that passion regardless of where you work, even, shockingly, in a big firm environment. And I've found that leveraging the resources, both human and financial, at my office for the public good is decidedly satisfying and rewarding. Well, there's no higher calling than a career in public service. We just heard from Monica, who's just fantastic. My message to you is to always do whatever you can from wherever you are, regardless of your job title. For me, leadership with respect to public interest work boils down to 3 really simple things. Number 1, I want to improve my community. I want to leave it better than I found it. Number 2, I have something I can contribute. Sometimes it's time, not often anymore. Now more often it's legal skills or sometimes financial contributions. And I really don't like to wait around for other people to get the job done. When you're fortunate enough to attend and graduate from an distinguished institution like Emory Law School, you're lucky. It's a fact. Sometimes in the midst of studying for exams or worrying about your career, you don't feel so lucky. I get it, I remember. Even now I catch myself feeling unlucky because something didn't go my way or it didn't happen the way I wanted it. And at those times I try hard to summons my perspective. I try to remember that nearly a quarter of the population in Atlanta is living in poverty. That can make the fact that the Starbucks people got your order wrong seem meaningless in a second. Poverty statistics can just seem like numbers to you as an Emory Law student or me as a partner at Alston and Bird. It is not our reality. Sometimes it's just easier not to think there are people in our community who are victims of slumlords, sex traffickers, living on the street, or suffering from abuse at the hands of their spouse or a loved one. But we need to think about these people and these issues because these are all problems that we, as lawyers, can help solve. And that's the really cool thing about being a lawyer. Your Emory education teaches you how to think, how to analyze, the rights you have. It gives you the confidence to stand up for those rights, and it gives you the clout with which to do so. As I accept this award, I challenge us all, from whatever perch, to work to strive to broaden our perspectives, improve our communities, not just our bubbles, contribute what we can, and never wait around for others to do the job. Thank you.
Congratulations to each of the award winners today. And I want to thank EPIC and I want to thank the Emory Law School for honoring and recognizing the Honorable P. Harris Hines. I still don't know what the P is for. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia, my colleague and my friend, for the Lifetime Commitment to Public Service Award. Chief Justice Hines was admitted to the bar in 1968, just as I was approaching my 2-year birthday. He began public service in 1974 when he left private practice to join the state court bench in Cobb County. And you can read in your program all that he's done with the Marietta Cobb Girls Club and his commitment to especially the Supreme Court Justice for Children Committee, which he chaired for 16 years. But I want to share a little bit of my own personal journey with this man so you understand the person that you are honoring. If you understand what Justice Hines, you understand that there are certain things that are core to his being. One is his family. He has his wife, Miss Helen, here. I see Mary Margaret, and she's married to Clem Doyle. And I see Kelly, who's married to his son, Hap Hines, and they're here. He's immensely committed and devoted to his family. He hears from every one of these folks probably 3 or 4 times a day because I've been in meetings when they're calling. He's committed to his profession, and he loves Cobb County. And so when I was a student at Auburn University, there was a story about me in the local paper. And he tracked me down. Now, for you young people, you don't understand the significance of this. He was a judge, Superior Court judge at the time in Cobb County, and you couldn't just Google and find people. You had to look at what people call phone books. And you had to call around and find people. And he tracked my mother down, and she called me, and she said, there's this man, this judge, who says he's trying to find you. Do you mind if I give you his number? I said, of course. The Superior Court judge in Cobb County wants to call me. Absolutely. And he called me, invited me to sit down with him, and offered his office as a launching point for me to learn the practice of law. And so I ultimately served as an intern in his chambers, and we've been lunch friends ever since, almost 28 years ago. We've been going to lunch. And I tell you that so that you understand the person that he is. This is not an exception. This is the kind of person he is. There are countless others for whom he has had this kind of impact with. Now, he often says he doesn't know whether I'm like a second son or a nephew. I've got the answer for that. All you have to do is check the will. He is the only person, male or female, my wife's not here, he's the only person, male or female, in the workplace who's ever told me he loved me. And it wasn't at all weird. Maybe a little bit, but I tell you that so you understand that this is the engine that has been the governing entity, the principal leader of our judiciary statewide. This is the person that has been processing the cases that have been coming before our court. And this is the person who has been chairing the Supreme Court Justice for Children Committee for 16 years. And I have to mention Ms. Helen because she's the one that made sure he followed up and called me and tracked me down. I've learned that since. Every great thing he has done, she has been behind. And you need to know that about her. Now, to the ones that love her most, they call her honey. Again, I tried the family thing out and I tried calling her honey, it didn't work. But I want you to know that this award is very appropriate for our Chief Justice and for Ms. Helen Hines, and it's an honor for me to be a part of this presentation to award him the lifetime commitment to public service. Chief.
An old man going a lone highway came at the evening, cold and gray, to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fear for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You never again will pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build this bridge at evening tide? The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said. There followed after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been as naught to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him. You honor me with this wonderful and most prestigious award, and I hope in some small measure that I am deserving of it. And I likewise hope that in my 70+ years upon this earthly orb, that I too have built a few bridges. This award is special to me because it is presented by my dear friend, Presiding Justice Harold Melton. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up. I will be retiring from the Supreme Court of Georgia at the end of August of this year. And ladies and gentlemen, the smart money is on Presiding Justice Melton to be the Chief Justice. So. And it also comes from my alma mater. I graduated undergraduate 1965, law school in 1968. Emory equipped me, I believe, to be a good lawyer, and I hope I've been a good judge. I would say this to you. At the Constitutional Convention, James Madison, sometimes called the father of the Constitution, wanted General George Washington to attend. He knew that for this fledgling country to get off to a good start, that one man had to be there, for he had the respect of the whole nation. General Washington did not want to go. He thought he had done enough for this new country. He had led a ragtag army successfully against the greatest military power the world had known. And he had been successful. He was tired. He thought he had done enough. James Madison got General Washington to come to the Constitutional Convention with 8 words. General, you must. You are the indispensable man. Ladies and gentlemen, lawyers to be, you are the indispensable men and women. We are depending upon you. I know you will do this. You will make our country, our state, and our communities better, fairer, and more just. When you're tired, when you're worn out, remember, you are the indispensable people for a fair, just, better society. Thank you very much.
What an incredible evening. Would you all please join me in congratulating all of our honorees this evening? I've been to some amazing inspiration awards, but I can't see any that have ever topped tonight, and it was just so wonderful. We thank you all for sharing your words of inspiration with us, and I know none of it is lost on all of these students who are here this evening, much less the rest of us. But I want to recognize just a couple of other groups. One thing that was really notable this evening, besides what amazing remarks by the presenters and by the honorees, is what an incredible family affair this is. And I would really appreciate it if the families of the honorees would stand up and let us recognize all of you. Come on, kids. We appreciate very much you sharing these special people with us, and I also think that that's important to see. We all have support behind us, and you all have done great things supporting these individuals that we honor tonight, and so we thank you for that. These are really big deals, these summer grants that we're funding tonight, and I didn't want to let this go without noting that. The money that we've raised tonight and that we've raised leading up to tonight helps fund these summer grants for students who get otherwise unfunded public interest, public service positions. And I know that if you'll bear with me just for a moment, there are a number of people in the audience who have received EPIC grants before, and I would like to recognize them. So if you've ever received an EPIC grant, would you please stand up? These folks have all done some amazing things since their EPIC grants, and I hope that if you haven't talked to them, that you'll talk to them at the reception. The other group I want to recognize are all the students who are in the audience who are thinking about applying for an EPIC grant for 2018. Would you please stand up? In just a few moments, I'm going to call up our Inspiration Awards co-chairs, and they're going to report to you the total amount of money that we've raised this year. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that we're always still collecting money, so if anybody would like to chip in a little more, or if you have friends that are not here that are not listed in the program, please send them our way. We would love to have them. I also want to thank, it's been mentioned before, but thank the Emory, the EPIC Advisory Board. I know there are a number of them in the audience with us as well. Could you stand and let us recognize you? This group works really hard to help us with the fundraising and to help support these students, and I've gotten to observe them in the meetings when the students are reporting on what they're doing, and they provide great wisdom and guidance to them all during the year, and so we really value them very much. Also, of course, thank the staff that helped us for tonight, and I know that the students may do that as well, but thanks to Ebony Mobley, Alyssa Ashdown, Bethany Glass, and Amy Marcellana, who I don't think most of them are in here. I know Ebony is over here, and so we thank them for all of their support because we couldn't pull this off without them as well. And so before I bring the students up, I do want to, one slight housekeeping thing. Right after this is over, we are going to take a few pictures with the honorees and the presenters, so if the rest of you would go ahead and go downstairs and start the reception, you'll have plenty of opportunity to visit with them as soon as we get a few pictures for prosperity, because we like to have that. And I hope you all enjoyed the slideshow that the students put together earlier this evening. We keep adding to that every year, and so we appreciate all the hard work that went into that. So now I'm going to call up this year's Inspiration Awards co-chairs. You've heard them listed before, and they're listed in the program, but they have done an absolutely amazing job this year. Allie Cochran, Raymond Tran, Eliza Taylor, and Joe Lenoff. Would you guys come up?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allie Cochran, and this is Raymond Tran, Eliza Taylor, and Joe Lenoff, and we're the co-chairs for tonight's event. We have just a few remarks before the cocktail reception. First, congratulations to tonight's honorees. Your commitment to public service is truly inspiring, and you remind us that public service can be a part of every career choice. Second, we'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to everyone who has helped us put on this event tonight. Thank you to the EPIC Advisory Board, to the caterers, Avalon, Bada Bing, Nicole's, and Saba Catering, who have generously donated the delicious food that you're about to enjoy. And thank you to the dozens of student volunteers over the last few months and tonight who have worked hard, and their eagerness we very much appreciate. We also have had the great pleasure of working with an amazing team of women without whom none of this could be possible. Alyssa Ashdown in Marketing and Communications, Bethany Glass in Development and Alumni Relations, Amy Marcellana in Event Planning. This incredible team was led by Miss Ebony Mobley and Assistant Dean Rita Sheffy. From coordinating with honorees to stuffing envelopes to offering her invaluable service, Miss Ebony Mobley's contributions cannot go unrecognized. And Dean Sheffy is the glue that keeps us all together. We are so incredibly lucky to have your guidance and support. Can I please just have one more round of applause for those individuals? And finally, we'd like to thank everyone who has made a donation for the EPIC Summer Grants. Your generosity has allowed multiple students to have the opportunity to pursue a career in public interest, where otherwise, for many law school students dealing with very high school loans, an unpaid summer job would be unimaginable. So your donations today will help shape tomorrow's community leaders. We are excited to announce that we have raised a total of $107,000 tonight for the EPIC Summer Grants.
We are so very grateful for all of your contributions. And if you're still considering donating, please note that we will be accepting donations. Now, I just want to make note that the reception will be held downstairs. You may use both elevators and a large staircase to get to the first floor. Downstairs, we'll also be selling t-shirts. The donations will go to the Epic Summer Grants. It will be $15 for students and $20 for non-students. And there will also be a journal at the t-shirt table for anyone to express how the EPIC grant has impacted their careers. And one final note for students, please remember to sign out at the registration table before you leave. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's event.